eventually.
Exactly.
So
Eventually is the key word.
eventually, yeah. Hello, folks from back here in southern West Virginia. You'll see the picture behind me, the picture of the pipe that sits on my farm in Monroe County, West Virginia, not far from the Appalachian Trail in Peters Mountain, the National Forest, the border of Virginia. That picture was taken about a month ago, early one morning, about a month ago. I'll talk about that later. So I'm not going to discuss the court cases much. Uh, we don't discuss this, ongoing litigation. That's kind of the phrase, but kind of what happened in a nutshell is a group of environmental organizations, including some that I belong to uh, here in West Virginia, um, filed a rejection to the biological opinion that was released earlier this year and the Forest crossing of the Jefferson National Forest, which is not far from my home. And they had filed objections to those before the dirty deal was passed with the Physical Responsibility Act. But in the Physical Responsibility Act, that Section 324 said that we couldn't object to permits any longer, and that the Fourth Circuit Court that has jurisdictions over those could not hear these cases anymore. And I'll just say what I thought. I thought, looking at the bill, that it was very flawed. If you read the Constitution, there is a clause in there, separation of power, that designates what each branch of government powers are. I don't see anywhere where it says Congress can make a decision on pending court cases or tell the courts that they can't, especially in one specific situation. That's kind of my take on it, and I've said I thought it was unconstitutional. The other one is the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. History teacher, have been a history teacher. 14th Amendment says that what is good for me is good for everybody else. So in this case, in my reading, I don't have the right to object to permits on this project, but everybody else in the country has rights to object to permits on other projects. To me, that would be an equal protection. But I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. I'll let the lawyers deal that out. So the Fourth Circuit took the petitions from both sides. They carefully read the arguments from both sides and said, okay, we think maybe the environmental groups has a good case here, so we're going to put a stay on these permits until we can have a hearing on the merits of the case. And that's scheduled probably for later in July, maybe the 27th. I haven't actually seen a court date, but so that will be heard before the Fourth Circuit in Richmond, Virginia, later this summer. That doesn't sit well with people who think that they can just ram these projects through over the objections and and disregard the law. So we've even had one representative, Carol Miller, actually told MVP to ignore a valid court order and continue to work. It appears that MVP maybe is trying to do that in some places. I don't know. I'm hearing reports from around Virginia, West Virginia, that there is still some activity. What that is, and I'm not going to try to make a comment on that. So, but that will be decided by the courts. It won't be decided by me or Carol Miller or MVP engineers. It will be decided by the courts where it should be.
All right. Well, let me just cut you off for a sec there. We're talking to Maury Johnson. He is a community leader in West Virginia, helping to lead the fight against the Mountain Valley Pipeline. We want you to see what it looks like already, what they have done. There is a good image. I think that's close to you, right? Bent Mountain, Virginia. I know you're in West Virginia, but not too far.
Well, it's about an hour from where I'm at right now. I'm over in Sweet Spring, Virginia, the upper end of Monroe County. we're at a historic hotel. We're holding a sustainable development forum over the next few days. But yeah, it's about an hour and a half from my home and about an hour from where I'm at right now.
Well, you can see from that picture just the scope of the project in that small area, the amount of land that has been decimated. I don't know, whatever word you want to destroy, just raked up. You can see it. It's dwarfed. It dwarfs the two people in the yellow construction outfits and the white hats. So we're not talking
Like
about a little
like
scratch.
that 125-foot temporary easement, construction easement, is the same width as an 8-lane highway. Going across some of the most pristine areas in the east, and some of the most biodiverse areas in the east. Some of the steepest slopes in Appalachia where they've ever even attempted to put one of these pipeline projects. We could talk in depth about whether the project is needed or not needed. I think it's probably a pretty insane, and I've always said it's a pretty insane idea and an equally insane route. But I want to talk about the safety of this pipe. And you'll see the pipe that's behind my head in my background. And like I said, that's been on my property. That was brought in to the right of way in September, late September or early October of 2018. And it's been sitting there ever since. Now, they buried a bunch of pipe in 2018 and early 2019. But what makes this pipe unfit and dangerous is that this green coating, now you'll see a piece there that has a red coating on it. That red coating is just a harder coating that goes under streams and roads, and there's a stream and a couple of streams in a road they have to cross or close by. And then the green pipe is what they put in that is coated with a FBE Scotch coat. I don't know, I ain't gonna give you the numbers, but anyway, the manufacturer says that should not be sitting out in the sun for more than 6 months. Robert Cooper, and I think he's the chief engineer for MVP. I sat in a deposition in Roanoke, Virginia in early 2018, 11-hour deposition preparing for the eminent domain cases. And he said that they needed to early entry and to take people's property as quickly as possible because this pipe had an expiration date on it. It had to go in the ground as quickly as possible, 6 months, maybe a year, if it's handled correctly. Well, this pipe, he also stated the same. I've got a word for word in a video that I'm getting ready to release, but he said that also in eminent domain cases in Clarksburg, West Virginia, that's the Northern District of West Virginia, Charleston, West Virginia, the Southern District of West Virginia, and the Western District of Virginia, when they took over 450 people to court to take their property for eminent domain. I went to all of those. I went to the deposition and all 3 of the court hearings. So he is on record. Pipeline Safety Trust is an organization of industry, citizens, government that work for the the safety of pipelines. And I was at the Pipeline Safety Trust meeting in New Orleans this past December, and everybody that wanted to talk on the record said it was very likely or was that this pipe is unsafe and should not be put in the ground without being either one, taken back to a factory, climate controlled place where it could be recoated or replaced with new pipe. Now, that's not easy. It's not impossible. It's not easy. It would take some time and it takes some money, but public safety should be paramount into the financial well-being of maybe the pipeline company. But anyway, so we have been working on this issue, myself and Roberta Bondurant from Bent Mountain, and which you have met. She was on a podcast not too long ago. And another gentleman, Bill Limpert, who was fighting the ACP, and he had taken up this issue. And some others, we've been working on this issue now for about 4 years. saying that this pipe, and they've had plenty of time to do it, they should have coated it with a whitewash, which they didn't do. They had plenty of opportunity to do that. They could have taken better care of this. In addition to the UV light and the weather that's been battering this pipeline for 6 years, I have photos, 2020, not far from my house, where bears had actually walked around on it. And so they're being impacted by wildlife all across West Virginia and Virginia. And then just last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, I was out taking pictures of the pipe in some of the areas of West Virginia and saw a herd of longhorn cattle rubbing up against it. One particular still was rubbing his horns on this. But MVP says it's not practical to do that. That means to them, in my opinion, that means that it would cost them time and money. It's not practical to guarantee the safety of people who walk the Appalachian Trail, travel across the interstates where this pipeline crosses, or through the rural areas. So we've been putting lots of pressure on them. Nobody has said that they're going to do it. They said they're going to inspect the pipe and make repairs in the field as necessary. Well, they're trying to put pipe in the ground as quickly as possible. And who is to say that they're doing anything? I suspect that they pay the people who inspect the pipe. And if you turn down too much pipe, you probably don't have a job any longer. That's kind of the way these things work. So I don't know what they're doing. They don't have a lot of confidence. People don't have a lot of confidence they will do the right thing. So we're having a press conference in D.C., a group of us and people from around the country. Next Thursday, we're going to start at the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission meeting that morning. Then we have a press conference held at PHMSA and possibly one at the Capitol where talking with some legislators. Unfortunately, it's not my legislators. Legislators from other parts of the country who are concerned about the people. And so we may have some folks join us at the Capitol, either on the House or the Senate side for a press conference sometime during the day on the 20th. You can watch the power. Go ahead.
Well, this is just so important to keep this fight going, Maury. We talked about the existential threat of the climate crisis. It's not even really a threat. It's happening right now. President Obama acknowledged that we're not going to stay within that 1.5 centigrade. I'm sorry. 1.
Biden.
Well, but actually President Obama was just recently just saw him on a video cast where he acknowledged former President Obama acknowledged that he was talking to his daughter, Malia. She's very concerned about as I think most thinking, caring people are, she's very concerned about the future, as were her friends. And he said, well, we're probably not going to be able to stay within the 1.5 Celsius that was recommended at Paris. And indeed, we've already surpassed it. We've already blown by the 1.5 degrees. He said we may not stay within 2, but even if we stay within 2.5 or 3 degree rise, that difference can mean millions or tens of millions or hundreds of millions of lives. I thought the president was remarkably blasé, failed to acknowledge his culpability in the ongoing crisis, since he certainly is part of it. So I wonder, obviously we have to do everything we can. We have to fight. Do you see an advantage? And we talked about, before we went on live here, Maury, do you think the Democrats are really less bad as a whole? I mentioned Jamie Raskin, what my Congress member, somebody I do not have respect for, somebody that I believe is part of the problem, not the solution. You have a different take on Raskin. Could you explain that? And I ask you that because we talked about him yesterday on this program, and also whether you have a different take than I do about the Democratic Party as a whole.
Well, I actually really admire Jamie Raskin. Worked with him. I've testified when the Democrats were in power. I testified before a committee that he was holding working on the Natural Gas Act reform. It's badly needed to be reformed to protect property rights and people. He has been very vocal about this pipeline. Yes, he did vote for the final debt ceiling bill, but many people that were against this pipeline did. I don't hold anybody that they all have their own reasons why they want to crash the world economy. But he was part of the House Progressive Caucus that were following the Virginia legislators who were trying to get an amendment in the House to take this out of the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Unfortunately, Kevin McCarthy and the Republican majority blocked any amendments in the House. So they didn't get a chance to actually make a vote. So he has been invited to be part of this press conference, and we're working on that. I think Jamie Raskin is better than the average bear out there. I know that he was also working with Reverend Barber with the Poor People's Campaign. Because we met, I was up in D.C. last time I was up there. I was with the Poor People's Campaign. They're working on Medicaid and Medicare and insurance and poverty issues together. So I wish we had more Jamie Raskins. That's my take. And less Carol Millers. I'll trade you representatives in a heartbeat.
I was going to leave it at your comment. I will say this. I think that Jamie Raskin kind of represents controlled opposition. He goes as far to the left as Joe Biden and the corporate elites who control the party will allow him to do. He also provides he gives progressives an out. Well, we've got Jamie Raskin, so he's helping us. We're supporting him without really an acknowledgement. No, he's really not. He's really not helping us. He's really, when it push comes to shove, he's supporting endless war. He's supporting pipelines, and so that's really what.
Well, let's agree to disagree on that.
We'll just agree. Yeah, that's fine. We can agree to disagree. I think he says the right things a lot. I'll give him that. What about the Democrats as a whole? Could you see yourself supporting perhaps Dr. Cornel West for president next year, or do you view the Democrats as flawed as they are as better than what we could get?
I think we have some flawed Democrats. I think everybody has, nobody's going to do exactly what I would do. I mean, I'd be the best president, in my opinion, but, I'm not going to get elected. I'm not even going to run. But there are good candidates out there. I'm very disappointed in President Biden. It doesn't matter who voted for in West Virginia. It's going to go Republican. And I hate to say that. It used to not be that way. Therefore, I will vote for someone else. I don't know who I'm going to vote for. I won't vote for Biden. I know if you're in a swing state and he is the candidate, you have to make a decision, of the bad things. Is he less bad than the other guy? So that's each individual state. In West Virginia, I have supported Joe Manchin, even sometimes when I didn't want to, but I thought, well, he's not I don't know. I will not support Joe Manchin. If he actually runs for Senate, I may even start a PAC that says anybody but Manchin. He did the same thing several years ago. He started a PAC when he lost the governor's race in '93 in the primary. He ran a Democrats for Underwood, and Underwood was probably the worst governor we've had in the modern era, anyway. So the politics are difficult.
It's tough times, Maury. Let's get back to the pipeline, which you just alluded to. This is from our friends at Politico. I was very taken by the headline, or at least by a line in this article where they described the provision in the dirty debt ceiling deal, which you have questioned its constitutionality, and I do also question the constitutionality of taking away from citizens their right to challenge legislation. They describe that as a golden ticket from Willy Wonka to the pipeline companies. Golden ticket that Politico notes was provided by Senator Joe Manchin. They don't, however, note that it was also Joe Biden, right, who gave the golden ticket to the oil and gas industry. So I wish that was included, and Schumer was involved in it too. And Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries from the House, for whom every Democrat voted as House Minority Leader. But Politico continues to echo what you've been saying, or you're echoing what they're saying, which is there are some significant, notwithstanding what appeared to be a green light, go, 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 there are some legal pitfalls facing the pipeline. Legal snag after legal snag continuing here. And I wanted to just show, let me see if I can get this picture, and I hope I can without losing the thread here, but you can see more pictures. I just want people to see just how awful this is. Here's a mountain in I guess, is that West Virginia? You know the area.
No, Maury, I think it's actually over in Giles County, between my house and Bent Mountain. From 2021, they were forbidden to build in a certain area between the national forest, in and between the national forest until 2021. I think that's where that's at. I think that's in Giles County, not far. That's where I actually was born, in Giles County. They got a court order. Got a court order. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Yeah, you said they have a court. All I was going to say is when I see these pictures, I think of how I used to enjoy downhill skiing, and this is what happens to ski mountains when they're made for downhill skiing. They cut out many trees for trails, and they really mess up the ecosystem in those mountains. So that's something else we really need to address, perhaps at a different time. But that's what ski mountains look like too.
They have a court order. Now, they may not like the court order. They may think that the court order is not legal, but that's not their right to decide. You have a legal court order, and in this country, you follow that court order until it is either revoked or struck down by a higher court. To violate a court order is a criminal offense. I'm not sure. It sounds like to me, I was told here this morning near home, I'm not there, that they heard chainsaws running in Peters Mountain near the forest, cutting the trees down again that has grown back. I've heard reports of pipe and machinery being moved around in West Virginia. This is 3 days after the court order to stop construction. MVP said, oh, well, we'll stop construction in areas where we haven't started construction. But those areas where we've already started construction, we're going to finish doing what we're doing, basically what they said. That's not stopping construction. That's not following a court order. So I don't know what, I know that in some previous cases, pipe was constructed illegally. Court got around to the court, the DAPL, I mentioned that before, DAPL and the Sable Trail Pipeline. Once they got into court years later, it was like, oh, yeah, that was done illegally, but we're not going to make you stop. Take the pipe out now that was done illegal. And nobody got much of a fine. So unless we hold people, not corporations, but people, criminally responsible for violating a court order, that includes a congressman who encourages the company to ignore the court order. And until we hold people accountable to the law, we are no longer a nation of laws. I was, as a history teacher, growing up, I always thought we had a nation of laws. We may not like the laws, we work to change them, and we can protest and work for change. And people do that and they go to jail for it. So we are a nation of laws, and I think that everybody in this country, whether you like the pipeline or you don't like the pipeline, should demand that people follow the law. And the law right now is that there's a stay on permits. There'll be a hearing probably in a couple of weeks, and where it goes from there will be the determination of the court system. It's not the right of an engineer or a CEO or a senator or a congressman to make that decision. And anyone who tries to make that decision, not only should the company be held civilly, that's all they can do to the company. Anybody who had a part of that, regardless of who they are, should be held legally responsible. That's the way I feel about it.
Well, I mean, if you knowingly violate a court order, then you are subject to contempt of court, including incarceration for a period of time. We're talking to Maury.
If I did that, I'd be in jail in a heartbeat.
You're watching Halitics with Maury Johnson. You can see his title right there, from Protect Our Water Heritage Rights. He is a leader in West Virginia against the Mountain Valley Pipeline that was approved by Congress by a legislative act. We're discussing the legal options and what is happening now to stop this carbon bomb. And it's frankly a disaster, both in a macro sense because of all the greenhouse gas emissions that it will contribute to our already overheated planet's atmosphere, but also on a local level and on a regional level by destroying beautiful swaths of the mountain state and Virginia as well, and running through pristine, or relatively pristine as it gets in this Anthropocene age, waterways in West Virginia and Virginia. Yeah, I just can't, give you enough airtime, Maury. It's so important. I want to give you a couple of notes here also from Bridget. Thank you, Maury. From Cheryl. Should people be calling PHMSA or DOT? Just real quick, you'll respond to that, Maury, but there's a link in the description with what folks can do, right? There's a toolkit in the YouTube description that provides various options, but you tell us what's most important to do right now, Maury.
Well, we need to put pressure on PHMSA and FERC and legislators. Joe Manchin and Shelley Capito, my legislators, actually said to us in meetings that they wanted the pipeline built. They want it built safely. Well, this is not safely. So call them, let them know. There's, like I said, there's a toolkit that I sent to you that you can do. Go to the whitehouse.gov page and send Joe Biden a letter. Let him know that that he's going to be held responsible if someone or something gets hurt because of this coating or this pipe. I got another thing, and I'm going to send this to you afterwards, Hal. This is a call to action. I don't know. I think it's maybe Power or something. It says demand a Senate investigation of the Mountain Valley Pipeline. After Congress passed the dirty deal to help MVP, they owe us an investigation into the economic viability of completing this project, if it is completed. Facts show that the MVP isn't economically viable in 2023 and should be canceled. The demand for gas has decreased, creating an oversupply of gas, dropping prices too low for producers to make a profit. The demand for gas is projected to stay the same or decrease. The Senate Finance Committee is made up of many progressive senators who would do an excellent job showing the project isn't economically necessary if they held an investigation. They are capable of making that case that it's irresponsible to build out this new methane infrastructure. A Senate investigation would get investors' attention that the MVP is a scam. We said it's a scam from the very beginning. That's just my take. You can learn more about the MVP's economic failings on the page 49 of Environmental Justice Today online magazine. I will send that to you. You can post that. And it also has an action network link where you can ask senators for a investigation. So that, and there's one other thing. Thank you, Hal, for keeping people apprised of what's going on here. I have a video that I actually drove all over the state of West Virginia, over 1,000 miles. I spent 16 hours one day in a vehicle last Sunday, taking pictures of this pipe wherever you can see it from the road. And that should come out next week. I'll share that with you. You can put it out. People need to see this. Um, if you are interested in helping out, contact Power. Appalachian Against Pipelines people are leading some protests. They've got a Facebook and a website. If you want to come down and observe, just be an observer. When they put this pipe in the ground, they don't like to do it when people are watching. But we can get you to where you can just be an observer, just a legal observer, to make sure they're doing this and not cutting corners. They don't like for people to watch them. Matter of fact, sometimes they'll just stop working if you try to watch them. And if you have an airplane and you're in the West Virginia area and you want to volunteer to help fly the route, contact Power. We had a pilot and did some flying, but he's become disabled. And so there's things you can do. Tweet and just stay in contact with Power Coalition at power.org or our Facebook page.
Well, I put up, Maury, the image there of this event. That's Sunday, right? This Sunday.
Yeah, that's the no MVP Southgate. That's the extension of the that they want to build in the North Carolina. That'll be a great event. You'll get to talk to a lot of people in the Power Coalition and 7 Directions of Service. On August 5th, we're doing a visual on the Greenbrier River, not far from where MVP wants to cross the route. The Greenbrier River Watershed Association has a Facebook event page up. It'll be shared some other places. That'll be a great thing. That'll be kind of like this. We got speakers and singers and faith leaders, and we're actually going to get people into the river and maybe even right to where they're trying to build it. So that's another one. I'll send you a link on that one.
And we'll be posting all of that again. The toolkit, though, is in the description right now. So link to that, click on that for more, for actions you can take right now to protect our water heritage and rights, and specifically with respect to West Virginia and Virginia, where this horrible pipeline is being shoved down our throats.
If they're allowed to get away with this, and I already see, I was actually on a Zoom call yesterday, nationwide Zoom call. Some of the people that wants to build new LNG facilities see this as a shortcut to overbuild a lot more LNG facilities. I've also heard of other pipelines around the country who says maybe this is the route we need to go to get our pipeline built because we can't meet the permitting. We can't not destroy the water or the endangered species and build our pipeline. And if we can just pay a senator or two, a key senator or two, a few $100,000, why spend millions of dollars in the permitting and fighting it in court? So this affects everybody. This doesn't just affect me. This affects everybody in the country. If they can take away my rights to do something like this, they can take away your rights to do something like this. And whether you like pipelines or you don't like pipelines, you need to say this way of building pipelines needs to stop.
Yeah, no question about it. If you are interested in that Southgate event, it's also commented on in the toolkit, which is in the description on YouTube, which is the only place you can watch this video. I'm Hal Maury. I guess we're wrapping this up, this section. I do want to thank you so much. It's always great to talk to you. Always learn so much. I honor your incredible activism, your work to protect your state, your county, your land. I do have
to leave.
Well, thank you.
Overdue for another Zoom meeting.
Thank you.
But it's always great to talk to you. Maybe I'll see you next week when I get up to DC.
All right. So we're going to let Maury go. I'll see him again soon. It is Halitics. I want to thank those who commented. Cheryl, Mariah, and I hope I said your name right. Bridget. So let's move on, though. And again, last point, again, just to hearken the third, fourth, fifth time, we thank Maury so much for joining us, but also we have to take concrete steps to the extent we can to stop it. And you know me, I mean, I'm a political guy. The reason this is happening is we have the wrong people in Congress, we have the wrong people in the White House, and that goes for the duopoly. I cannot see the difference between them when every Democrat voted for Hakeem Jeffries, the Congress member, the New York Congress member from Wall Street, from AIPAC. And remember, Israel is one of the only countries, along with now it appears Ukraine, that's used cluster bombs in the 21st century. So this is who represents every Democrat in Congress as their minority leader. That includes Ilhan Omar, that includes AOC, that includes Jamie Raskin. They all voted for Hakeem Jeffries, who's just one of the worst Congress members, period. So I just can't see the Democrats as a solution. We're going to have a couple days off, and I'll be back on Monday, but I have a couple more stories. I want to thank one of my very avid viewers. He often comments. I really thank him for it. We're hoping to have him on the program as well. And he brought to my attention this story from Axios and how it is very, very dishonest about RFK Jr. Now, people here know, if you watch my program, if you watch my live stream, I am not a fan of RFK Jr. I do not believe he is the right choice in 2023. Do I think he's better than Joe Biden? Yes, because he has been a true opponent. I believe him. He is sincere in his opposition to the Ukraine war. But otherwise, he has really adopted positions that I don't feel are serious. I really don't. I mean, the crypto, the skepticism about the climate crisis, I just cannot climb on board the RFK Jr. train. But that doesn't mean we don't call out pro-establishment propaganda in the media that is designed to take down anybody but Joe Biden, because he is viewed as the true ally of the corporatist establishment, of the duopoly. And that includes versus Trump. I don't think the corporate duopoly is a real fan of Donald Trump either. So here's something from Axios from a few days ago. RFK Jr.'s campaign gear, not union or U.S. made. And I do thank my listener for bringing this story to our attention. So is that accurate? And the listener, who I believe does support RFK, wanted me to call this out. So I did some research, and this is from the website, which is linked. Now, the Axios article. Now, I would think if you're going to do an article and you're going to say that RFK Jr. is not using union-made products, I would think it's not too challenging to simply link, or better yet, screenshot a copy of some product that he is selling, and that says not union, that says not made in the United States, that doesn't have a union bug. This is from the RFK Jr. website. They acknowledge it, at least for one of their shirts, Kennedy 2024. They couldn't find a union-based provider, but it's made in LA and uses fair labor practice. So they're totally transparent. This is not acknowledged on the Axios site, which is clearly being very, very disingenuous. Now, you might say, well, the Axios was thinking of something else. Well, maybe they were. Maybe Axios was. But the problem I have with that argument is that Axios linked to the very page that I just showed you. And their claim that they're selling campaign merchandise not made in America or by union labor is just clearly debunked by that image, not the union labor allegation, but the made in America allegation. Clearly, the product, the shirt, is made in the United States. So let's delve a little bit deeper, because it's not just the shirt that we see on that page. The listener, the viewer who brought this story to my attention, actually sent me an image of a shirt that he purchased, that they purchased online from that very same site. And you can see it says right on there, Kennedy 2024. This is purchased from that same site. And if you look, you can see Kennedy 2024. And if you look closely, it says on that shirt, Union made in the United States. So again, Axios is simply misrepresenting. They're misstating. They're dishonest when they claim that the products aren't being made in the U.S. and not being made by Union. In fact, what we're seeing is that the RFK Jr. site is wholly transparent, acknowledging that their product is, in some cases where they couldn't find a union manufacturer, they were using a non-union manufacturer, but making the product in Los Angeles. So what more do you want from them? And they did find that union maker, that union shop. So this is just clearly the corporate media trying, and I think, perhaps since, people who see that will be very upset. People who want us to support workers will be very, very upset. Please be apprised that Axios is simply not telling the truth. The Kennedy products are made in Los Angeles. We saw the T-shirt. It is the T-shirt that the viewer purchased from RFK Jr. It was made indeed in by a union shop in the United States, and and of course they sell other items besides shirts. So you can also buy, for example, a sticker, right? A Kennedy sticker. And if you look at the Kennedy sticker, which is on the website, which Axios links to, you can see very, very clearly that union bug. Right above the word Democrat, there's a union bug. So Axios is lying to you. Or if they're not, they cherry-picked one item, one product, which they don't even screenshot, which they don't even picture, take a picture of to share with you to prove their point, which obviously I'm doing. So just be apprised that if you read anything slamming a non-duopoly candidate or a non-duopoly approved candidate, yes, Kennedy and Williams are running for the Democratic nomination, so they're part of the duopoly. But be apprised that you may read very negative information about these candidates. Don't fall for it necessarily. Do your own homework, do your own research, as our viewer did, as he shared with me the image, proving that despite what Axios says, despite Axios' lie, the fact of the matter is RFK Jr.'s campaign gear is in fact made in the U.S., and we have found both shirts and buttons or stickers, whatever term you want to use, that are in fact made in by Union. So it's a crock. It's simply a crock. And let me just get that good picture one more time there where you can see it. And I'm not saying this because I'm a fan of RFK Jr. I'm most emphatically not. But I'm going to call out, I'm going to expose when possible, when it's called to my attention, corporate media lies. And that's what they're doing to RFK Jr. There's that image one more time. All right, finally, I wanted to get to the other alternative Democratic candidate in the election next year for the Democratic nomination in the primary. So that would be Marianne Williamson. You know, I'm not a supporter of hers either. I would support a progressive Democrat if they were running. I don't think that we have that option. If our Cornel West were running in the Democratic primary, and I've kind of expressed some doubts, right? What's the right course? Should he run as a Democrat? I'm not sure. I get why he's not. He said, hey, you want me to run as a Democrat? Have you heard what I'm saying about the Democrats? How hypocritical Dr. West is saying would he be if, after all the criticism he lodges, and I think justly, against the party, against its membership, against the corruption that it breeds, how disingenuous would Dr. West be? Would he feel himself to be if he were to run in a party that extols the woman on the left, as you're looking at the screen, as the farthest to the left we can ever hope for, as the most we can ever expect, and she's already endorsed Joe Biden for president, as AOC has. So Dr. West is saying that's not my party, and I get it, and I respect that, and I'm fine with it. On the other hand, I do understand the argument as raised by Jacobin and The Nation, by Bhaskar Sankara specifically, and the other writer whose name now escapes me, that Dr. West's message would be heard by more people. It would get more traction if he were running in the Democratic primaries. And I get that. Of course, I would say to Sankara, if you like his message, then amplify it, because you are part of the media. Let's play this clip. This is going to end the program. I'll have a final commentary, and I'll be back on Monday. But I cannot support Marianne Williamson. I can't support her because of her record as, again, someone I believe is a woo-woo, somebody who a spiritual advisor, which I think is a load of crap. But even more so, even worse than that, are her actual policy positions, and this one in particular. Let's see if we can get it to work. Having trouble getting this video to play. Why is that? Well, if we can't get it to work, we won't do it. But I think we should be able to.
2024 Democratic hopeful Marianne Williamson joins us now for an exclusive in-depth interview. Marianne, welcome to Rising.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
It's our pleasure. Let's get right into it. Tell us about the campaigning you've been doing in early states and how you feel about the attention you're getting thus far.
It's very exciting. New Hampshire is going to continue to have its primary, regardless of the fact that the DNC has decided to pass it by. And people in the early primary states know the importance of their role. And Granite Staters are very much that. You know, there's a television network there called WMUR. And I did this thing called Conversation with the Candidate. And it was exciting, and the clip from it has gotten over 2 million views on TikTok. And, people are listening. People are hearing me, and it's exciting. It's exciting being on the ground in New Hampshire. And I'm in New York now.
All right, I'm going to pause it there because that wasn't the section I wanted to play. I had a little trouble, as I mentioned, but let's get to where Marianne Williamson loses me yet again. And I know the quality of this picture isn't great either, but you can hear her words, and that's what matters. So here we go. This is where I believe you should determine that Marianne Williamson is not the right choice in the Democratic primary.
And many on the left were surprised by that, given how close your platform is to Bernie Sanders' 2020 platform and her endorsement of Bernie Sanders in that context. What do you make of the endorsement?
All right, and let me just stop that. I got the wrong timing there. Let me see if we can get this, because I want to focus on her support for the war in Ukraine, and I do apologize for this.
America's poking the bear. It's true. Both are true. Both are true that the United States does not have clean hands here. and the Russians have invaded a sovereign nation. Both are true. In terms of cluster bombs, it's horrifying. No, they should not be used. There are rules of war. There was a Geneva Convention. It's not an accident that over 100 countries have banned cluster bombs. The ones that haven't are Ukraine, Russia, and the United States. So they should not be used. They have horrifying repercussions even after a war. And as you said, they kill sometimes years after a war has ended innocent civilians, including children. So even if you're going to say that you support for Ukraine at this point, I think it's absolutely wrong to use cluster bombs. In terms of the argument that we need that money here at home, the money that is being spent on Ukraine would not be spent on expanding Medicare, would not be used on domestic spending. I think where there is a good argument is about cutting defense spending in general. But the idea of focusing on the funding for Ukraine as opposed to defense spending, to me, has no logic to it whatsoever.
All right. Well, so I'll stop it right there. So she's saying if I were president, I'm not going to cut spending for Ukraine. I do support the war, maybe not cluster bombs, but she's pretty general even in opposing that, saying, well, they shouldn't be used, but Russia's using them too. But her basic answer to Brianna Joy Gray, and if you look at the picture of Gray in that video, is she's pretty unhappy with it, is, yeah, no, I support the war. Russia's invasion was illegal. That's the end of it. There's no recognition. There's no acknowledgement how we, in fact, bear the complicity that we bear means we need to be doing everything we can to stop it, to end it, to put this to bed, to stop the killing. And you don't get that from Marianne Williamson. And because of that, I oppose her candidacy. I also opposed, frankly, Joe Biden's candidacy. And I also oppose RFK Jr.'s candidacy because of his views on crypto and other positions he's taken. It's all policy-based, except for Williamson, also her history as what I believe is somewhat of a grifter with the woo-woo spiritual advisory nonsense. But, none of them have progressive enough policies to suit me. And therefore, all of them would be a problem if they were elected. Only Dr. West would be a clear-cut win for progressives if he were elected. And therefore, I urge you to vote to support him and to support him vocally and to get behind your Green Party. So those are the two assignments I'm giving. One, click on the link in the video description for your toolkit to help stop the Mountain Valley Pipeline while we still may be able to. I'm not going to be too optimistic and say we can, but hopefully we still may be able to. And also, please, please, please get behind Dr. Cornel West, because he, I believe, really, and I know it's going to sound dramatic, I don't really see any other real hopes for the future.